Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of our public education panel series with Critical Mass. Tonight we are doing episode 2, which is the Beyond the Horoscope, the Dilution of Astrology. And I'm very lucky to be joined by Laurie Norton, a traditional astrologer, who's going to be discussing the idea of astrology, what traditional astrology brings, and why astrology has been renegated to a pseudoscience instead of being appreciated for the deep and rich craft that it is, with all the value that it offers us. So we're going to be taking a structured look at astrology as humanity's old symbolic language and how it's been practiced across cultures for thousands of years. But yet in modern times, it's often reduced to simple entertainment or personality typing. Our aim is to reconnect the subject to its depth, history, and cultural context. And we're going to explore a whole lot of different aspects of traditional astrology, and other branches of astrology we'll mention in as well. And we'll spend some time on bringing this through so that you can understand what astrology is and what value it offers you in terms of prediction, self-development, and a useful tool for self-discovery. So my panelist tonight is Laurie Norton, a renowned astrologer in South Africa, who is a traditional and modern astrologer with more than 25 years of study and 2 decades of consulting experience. Her background spans medical work, metaphysical study, and extensive training in both modern and traditional techniques. She began studying astrology in 1998 and went on to train with many respected teachers across multiple branches of the craft. She's the founder of Sublunar Academy, offering structured training in beginner, intermediate, traditional, and advanced topics, including internationally accredited programs, horary, and rectification. She has mentored hundreds of students and served as the president of Astrology South Africa. Welcome, Laurie, and thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have you and to discuss this conversation with you.
I'm excited to be with you, Leonie, being one of my top students and one I'm most proud of that has actually taken this. And you just need a few. You can teach many, many, many people, but you just need those few. And you were in the class when one of our students, who was actually a lawyer, a highly qualified lawyer, studied astrology with you, and she was said at the end of the courses she did with me, because you've done several with me and she's done them as well, which would in university be like 5 years of study. In India, not in South Africa, I actually am known as Dr. Norton with all the studies I've done. So in India, I am a doctor because this is how much they respect the knowledge and the study that goes into astrology. And, Absolutely. I never forget once having a chat with her, and she said, do you know that this is the hardest thing I've ever studied? Next to this law was a breed. People don't realize what astrology is. I thought I would just, out of interest, say, look in the dictionary, the good old-fashioned dictionary, and see what does it say about astrology, just to give us an understanding, take us out of the modern pop astrology field. It's serious. It says astrology. Ology, we know, means study, knowledge. The study of the movement and relative positions of the celestial bodies, interpreted as having an influence on human affairs and the natural world. So literally what happens up there, how it affects us down here. That is it in a nutshell. So when people, I've heard of astrology, and I want to cringe. That's not a word you would use. That's a word. I think aesthetics of astrology. Does that mean we're going to do a facelift? Oh, let me do a horary to see a good time to do a facelift. Let me look at the first house and see the transits. Can she have a facelift? No. Aesthetics is for beauty and art. This is not an art. Astrology is not something that is woo-woo. It's not something that is pretty and fun. Astrology is serious. Astrologers need to know astronomy, they need to know biology, they need to know geometry, and they need to know mathematics. If they do not know that, they can't. I think when I said you need a scientific calculator. And what did you all do?
Scientific calculator. I nearly cried. I thought, gosh, will I be able to do this? But you know what's amazing is because of my passion for astrology and your teaching, I have learned to understand algorithm, geometry, visualization of things. All of that has come to me through my love and understanding of astrology. And I couldn't for the life of me do it in school. But once I started studying astrology, then it all made sense to me.
Exactly. Now, I loved geography at school. I was good at geography and, funny enough, biology. So I enjoyed those two subjects. And then, but maths, they pushed me over the line with the lowest pass I could possibly get in matric.
Yeah.
And the amount of maths I use in astrology, in my teachings, in rectifications, is huge. And even my husband, who looks at me as a pilot, when I'm saying to him, I need to know the longitude and latitude of this area, and how do you, because he does it. He's clever. He's a pilot. He puts in longitudes and latitudes. He was quite impressed with this wife of his, who was just a easy little nurse. In the days before they had respirators, we did einlands. They were very easy. You put this in, you plug this on, you pump that up, and there you go.
Exactly.
So he was impressed. This woman is clever.
So this is really interesting, Laurie. Tell me, how did you actually get drawn into astrology in the first place? Because I know that you were qualified initially as a oncology nurse, and you're in the medical field as a representative as well, and very medical in your knowledge with a very, very strong and technical medical background. So what drew you to astrology initially?
I was young, and I was in a bachelor flat, and it was a beautiful bachelor flat. And, we were sort of 60s children, and we did all sorts of crazy things. I won't go into that. But at any rate, I was a wild child. And we had get-togethers, and it was like a hussy, and it was such a joy. And there was this girl, and she did astrology. To me, she was the most fascinating being, and I don't know, I was like this little thing following her everywhere she went. I was like little minion. Please tell me more, tell me more. I was fascinated with what she did. Fascinated.
Yeah.
And so it did that. And I never really read the Sunday Times, but I knew what sun sign I was. But I never read, I didn't read much about that, but I was fascinated that she could tell these things. And that started the interest there. Over several glasses of wine, which a 19-year-old or 20-year-old was not really capable of drinking, but still it was great. And then I was always very psychic. So this is the other thing you do need with astrology, like you would with psychology, is to be able to understand, read, and intuit what this situation really is. If you're going to want to black and white it and put it in a neat little box, all those things, science, biology, maths, all of nature, if you don't have an intuition, they will not make sense.
Yeah.
So you do need that. You can't just go there. There are many a person who think it's easy and they come and do astrology. They don't. They lack the people skills and the intuition. And I had that from a nurse, and I used to do this, and I was always interested I looked at their birth dates to see what signs they were, and that's sort of what piqued my interest. Then I remember going to a teacher, very well-known teacher, and I went to her, and I said to her, I booked an appointment. I didn't have much money. I was a nurse, and in those days, it was 500 Rand. Those days, it was a fortune. I saved and saved. Now, I'm going back 30 years when I went to her, over 30 years.
Yeah.
And I said to her, I waited. She made me wait. In those days, you waited. You didn't do it online. You had to wait. And I waited and waited. And I was getting more and more uptight because my time was going on. So at the end, I had very little time. I was very angry with her. And I said, look, you've made me wait for long. I've come here with one question. I didn't want to know that I'd been abused by men. I didn't want to know any of that she was saying, oh my God, you this. I said, no, I don't want to know that. I want to know, am I an astrologer? That was the question I asked. I paid 500 Rand to be told, yes, you are. And you can join my course.
Fabulous.
I said, when? She said, well, we've already done some, but you can start now. At the end of that year, it was modern astrology. It made no sense to me. It's something where intuitively I thought, this is not working. I don't know. This is not me. This is not working. And I had the guts to stand up to this person and attack her about it. Because she would mock us, say, all you water signs are there, all you, look at you all, because we'd all sit on these things there. And I just said to her, no, this is not working. Then she came back to, and I walked out. I said, I want my money back. Because I was asked, what is astrology? I was asked to define astrology by a client, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
So I thought, no, let's leave it at that. And then she told me about Robert Zoller and medieval astrology, the tradition.
The tradition.
And it's through her, that's the gift she gave me, was Robert Zoller.
Yeah.
And we were his first students. And that's when I thought, now this works. And I studied with him for a long time.
You did. So just for our viewers, Robert Zoller is a very, very respected medieval astrologer. And yeah, tell us more about him.
He was actually not only into astronomy, he was also, for fun, doing archaeology. And there were the three Robs. I forget the surname of the third Rob. There was Robert Zoller, Robert Hand, and another Robert. And ironically, all three of them were going on these archaeology digs and all the rest of it. Then they discovered, and they also poo-pooed the astrology story. They found in Egypt and in other digs all over the East, they found coffins and books and everything. They understood Sanskrit because they were clever. Sanskrit is the language the old Egyptians used. And they then were able to translate that into Latin, and then from Latin into English. So they were able to read this and look at the signs and look at the planets of that era. And there's a big book. It's actually known as, let me pull it out here, as an ephemeris. Now, this book, you see how old it is. This book, and they have it year in and year out. Every little thing here is every little planet and the movement for every single day. He then looked at that
so many years ago.
Yeah, and he looked back to see what was going on. They looked back, they did a study of it. And then they went to the Vatican and said, hey, all those books you took away from all those astrologers you killed eons ago, give them to us. They're not yours. Yeah. And they studied it, and then he wrote his course on what they call
the tradition.
That's so where the birth of the tradition came.
Yeah.
You know, Alan, yes?
I was going to ask you, in terms of, so what you have studied is medieval astrology, with the likes of the Roberts, but before that we had William Lilly as well, also in medieval English, one of the godfathers of astrology, let's say. And they brought us the meat and potatoes astrology that goes back into all these other disciplines, geometry, geography, mathematics, alchemy, biology, etc., etc. So in terms of tradition, how is tradition different to, say, modern astrology or something like evolutionary astrology?
Okay, so modern astrology came out when Alan Leo, the astrologers were put to death. They kept the good ones and they turned them into monks because they were wise. They could predict things, and they could.
And there was a lot of fear mongering around how powerful their predictions were. And some of them, like Alan Leo, were arrested several times because how could they know so much about the crimes without having been involved? There was so much superstition around that time. So yeah, carry on. Sorry, I interrupted you.
But I mean, we can predict now. And luckily we don't get our heads chopped off. I don't get burnt as a witch.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Then Alan Leo got a bit brave and he thought, you know what? He saw a place, he understood it, but he did it in a way that was gentle and nice and fun. He didn't know about the outers. People brought them in. It's almost like, the outer planets. The outer planets being Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune.
Yes.
He didn't know about them. He didn't talk about them. He didn't write about them. They've sort of snuck in somewhere along the line. God alone knows where, but they are there. They are visible. We can see them. They can affect us. Just like a fixed star, eons of light ago. If you can see it, it will affect you. And now with these telescopes, we can see these planets. Even Pluto is a planet. It's not it rotates. It's got moons. It's a planet. It does. Pluto is known as a great malefic planet. It has no rulership. There are only 7 days of the week, 7 continents, 7 great seas. Therefore, there are only 7 planets. So you can go on and on with that 7777. It's there. There comes in a mythical mathematical thing that we can't ignore. That number 7. It's there and it's real. It's my lucky number. Anyway, it's never won me anything though. But my chart says I won't.
Yes. Sorry. I think there's a delay on our chat. Carry on. You were saying tradition focuses on the 7 classic planets, and modern astrology has brought in the sort of outers and a few other things. And then evolutionary astrology, for example.
Evolutionary astrology, look, I've got a lot of respect for all astrologers, and evolutionary astrologer has come in. I think it was Maurice Fernandez who brought that in. He's very scorpionic and very deep, and he brought in and he put so much emphasis on the outer planets. And him and I at conferences, we've had our moments. I said, no, you can't say that. So, I just decided no, because if any of my students or anybody comes to say, but Pluto rules Scorpio, I go, it has no rulership over any of the signs. So that's where a problem comes, is if you're going to give an outer planet a ruler of a sign, which is on the cusp of an area of life in a person's chart, you're giving it the wrong ruler and you will make an incorrect prediction. This is how real tradition is and where modern loses it. And the sad thing is these outer planets, they're harsh. If you look at the mythology of Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, they're horrible. So they are not nice. Neptune's not dreamy. He's just deceptive as all hell. And he creates chaos.
Yes.
I mean, Uranus swallowed his kids and everything thereafter. So Uranus is a bloody control freak and blindsides you because he's suddenly swallowing before you know what's happened and you're in a bit of a thing. And then Pluto just generally likes to kill off things. Yeah. But you can manage them. You've got to understand how to manage them in your chart, but they don't rule anything. They don't rule anything. And that's the problem where the big mess up is, where it would be nice, and hopefully maybe an evolutionary astrologer will one day come onto one of these platforms. But it's something I disagree with. You take those out, you suddenly start making sense. You can start predicting correctly and getting your predictions correct.
100%. In terms of prediction, I 100% agree with you that absolutely that is where the accuracy lies, and that's where the fundamentals were created. I love the modern branches of astrology, the various ones that have come out, especially the ones that have the sort of a different application, let's say, where they go into the soul's development and the psychology of things, and that can be really helpful for people in terms of their readings and things for themselves. But in terms of prediction, in terms of when is this going to happen or not happen for me? What is causing my illness? When can I fall pregnant? What is the best direction for me? I think tradition is the most successful in terms of that, because we are so scarily accurate if we follow what you're saying. So I do think that's the power of tradition. It is harsh because
tradition is harsh. It's black and white. So with evolution, they can talk about the soul's growth. They can talk about things. I can remember once going for an evolutionary reading, because there's one thing it drives me mad, is my worry and care for animals. So
Yes.
much so, I could rather be a nurse and watch patients die, but I cannot look after animals because it kills
Yeah.
me.
It's too
And
terrible.
an evolutionary astrologer who was doing my reading then, I mean, we're on conference. I thought, what the hell, let me go and do this. Let me be a bit more gentle. He basically said, it's because you rule by Neptune. Therefore, it hurts you so much. So you've got to learn to just let it go, dissolving. But you see, and I thought, okay, well, that was quite interesting. He showed me how to, there he was using Neptune in the right context. So I wasn't ruled by Neptune. But when I look at that Neptune, it was aspecting my ruler. So
Very interesting.
there it made sense. But he saw it because I'm a double Pisces, that I'm ruled by Neptune, and,
And it showed you something. Yeah. I think there's
yeah.
such value in all versions of astrology because I really want
Mm,
people. One of my goals as an astrologer and with this educational episode is to show people the value of astrology and the power that it has. And if you end up
mm.
going to one of the other branches, that's okay. But please experiment with astrology. Realize the power that it has for us. Um, and let's talk a little bit about prediction because you do some very specialized areas of prediction, which you have taught me and passed on to me as well, which I'm very grateful for. But can you tell us a little bit about horary and then briefly about rectification, your specialized skills as a predictor?
Okay, dokes. Horary is actually, some people, horary, horror. No, it's horary in Greek, it's on the hour, in Latin, on the hour. So in the medieval days, William Lilly was one of the greatest horary astrologers around. He knew he could go into a fair, and with this amazing book, this ephemeris, he had worked out all the different times of the days and where the planets would be and what was coming over the eastern horizon when the person asked the question. So they would come, they had no birth time, nothing, but they had a problem. So they would stand in a queue and they would give him his problem, and he would draw up the charts beautifully by hand, and he would actually give them a solution and an answer to their question on the hour that that question was asked, at this latitude and longitude where he was sitting. So this is what horary is. So with a horary astrologer, if you've got something burning on your mind, it's a very specific question. You don't need to have your whole chart read and ask about your boyfriend and this and that, but all you are interested is, should I take this job in England or not? I'm in a job here, but I want to know. England has approached me and said they will give me the same job. I can work offline. Should I take it? It is that specific and deep. That question, the horary, will tell you everything you need to know about the job you have now, the job you're going to take, the money you're going to make, where you will be happiest. Every little itsy witsy bit. And it's, human error is there, but I've had I'd say 95% of the time, I don't know about horaries that I've gotten wrong because they haven't come back and the people seem to come back, but it's right and it puts him on the right track. Simple thing like, I thought this would happen. I knew this was the answer. And that's horary astrology.
It's amazing. It's absolutely fascinating. And it really does, like you say, if people start to look at you funny, like, is she a witch? Is she psychic? Like, how does she, what magic is this? It really is. It really is fascinating.
It is. I mean, you can do such fun things. I'm a pilot's wife. And so pilots aren't in an office. So people don't know their wives. They don't know about their wives. They don't know anything about the pilot's life. But one of the female pilots that he was flying with, and he's trained her and everything, she got married. And I was invited to the wedding. And one of the other female pilots who was having a hard time came to me for a reading. So I'm at the wedding. And then she sort of spoke to me, and I was because I'm a traditional astrologer, I could see that, when you do the tradition, and for example, I'm a Pisces sun, and then everybody's the Pisces are liars, they're weak, they're crybabies, but I'm a Pisces sun with a Taurus dwarf. So I've got that people don't know that extra bit. So I'm able to ask them. So they say to me, well, I'm at this. I say, well, when's your birthday? And I can tell them the cosine of their ego, because at the moment they're only talking ego. Anyway, I got bored, so I played a few party tricks because that's what astrologers sometimes do when they're bored. And my husband went flying after the honeymoon just recently, and he came back and he said, Nikki loves you. Now, I'm typical astrologer. There's long hair that goes on forever. And I'm at the wedding, and I think I had this dress on, so I looked like, these weird people, these witches with, Wendy, what's her mother's name? I looked a bit like her. Anyway, so the female pilot comes up to my husband, and they're sitting there in the crew room, and she said, in the most nicest way, your wife's a witch. She knows all about me. And that's what the tradition gives you, the ability to do that, to get rid of myth. So that's horror. It's amazing what you can do.
Yeah. And I love what you said there, that it gets rid of myth and misconception. It's very to the point. It's very structured. It's very detailed. And I mean, studying horror is not a small endeavor. It's a long course. It requires a lot.
It's a year and a half course, and then the next 6 months is doing the major assignments.
Yes,
it's a year and a half course. Major. It's hard.
Yeah. It is hard.
Had some highly intelligent people throwing their toys out the cot with me.
Yeah, because it's difficult. It's difficult. And that's where I like what you mentioned about intuition. You do need a little bit of intuition here and there to intuit what it's trying to say to you. And that's one of the powerful things that I really loved about what William Lilly said, is that we are humble students of God, and that we are simply translating the language of the stars. And so it is good to remain, humble in our way of working with people. And that brings me to another talking point that we were going to chat about, which is like, how do you work with people with complicated issues? How do you, where do you draw the boundaries in terms of trauma work and, that sort of thing in terms of astrology? Because it's all in the charts, it's all there. How do you feel about that, or what advice do you have for us?
I've had a few situations that have been pretty damn uncomfortable. Oh, look, I'm hanging up there. The one situation was a pedophile.
Yeah.
And he came to me with the story. And I think I mentioned him in class because it's something you needed to learn what to do. And all I could tell him was, you are going to end up in jail. You need to do something. I actually advised medical castration. And he was an artist and everything, and he didn't listen. He ended up in jail and beaten. I don't know where he is now, but I saw in his chart he was. But I said, I am not prepared to speak to you, see you, or deal with you until you've proven to me that I see you are going to go to jail. I gave him the harshest warning. I got a message from him, a bizarre phone call, and I remembered the name, and he said, I'm in jail. You're right. Can you tell me when I'm getting out? I said, no. And then there was a time where I needed to do a bit of a lie, because I dealt with a client who was a crook. She stole quite a lot of millions from a company. And it finally got to the point of where sentencing was about to happen. And I could see that she had a thing in her chart, an aspect that could bring her to jail. And the Mercury is the jail. And the Mercury in the transits of the heaven board, everything in her two charts together. We're looking at the three-dimensional thing going on to find this. And I thought, she's going to go to jail. She said, are they going to put me in jail? I lied. I said, I can't see it happening. If it was Monday, you'd go to jail. But this is on Tuesday. But I saw on Monday she would be in jail. And that is when they decided she would go to jail. And I thought, I just had a funny intuitive feeling, do not tell her she's going to jail. And if I would have told her, she was going to take rat poison and kill herself for a 4-year sentence.
Wow.
And I decided, no, I'm not going to do this.
And am I right in saying... Yeah, sorry?
She's still in jail, but she's fine. She's coping.
She's coping. She still calls you for crisis 1 and crisis 2 every now and then.
I mean, she's in jail and she still wants to know if her boyfriend's still left.
Oh.
It was always about the boyfriend. Yeah. So, yeah, and then the other things I won't do, I had a client once who came to me and said, I need you to do a time rectification on my husband. Now, time rectification makes prediction very, very close. Nothing's exact because science is not exact, but it can make timing very close. So I said to her, okay, for your husband, right. And I said to her, but can I please get permission from him to do this? I always ask for permission. If somebody wants somebody's time rectified, which is one hell of a process of massive maths, you're working arc of event, you're working dates into degrees, minutes, and seconds, huge geometry. So it's difficult. And Leonie studied that. I think you've done about 3 courses now to get right. And you still, even I spend hours. You can't be paid enough to work out a person's exact time. So I said to her, but she said, no, you won't give me, but I've got all the information. I really desperate. And she did have it. I said, no, until I get his permission. I said, but why do you need to know his time? She said, well, then look at my chart and tell me whether he's going to die soon.
Gosh, yeah.
Because she said, because if he's not going to die, if he's going to die soon, then I'll just hang around for the inheritance. If not, then I must leave him.
Gosh.
Yeah.
So yeah, the ethical boundaries get blurred occasionally. So we have to be careful how we handle things. And then also, it is a delicate balance when people ask these kinds of things. So we do have a strong sense of ethics around the craft and what we do and what we don't do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also just wanted to say how, you always cautioned me as an astrologer that when you're working with people's trauma, if they bring it up and if they open the door, you can give them information, but if it's something very deep and very complex, then to also pass them on to their psychologist.
You have to pass it on.
Yeah.
I have suggested it, you do suggest, and there's times when I'll say, I'm not qualified to work with this depth. I can see, I had a person who was there about her son. And because the son was underage, we were able to do his chart. I didn't want to know his name or anything. And I could see he had very strong suicidal tendencies. And I said, listen, I can't help. She said, no, can't you speak to him? Can't you? I said, no. I said, he is seriously ill and he needs to see somebody. He needs to be committed. And he eventually did kill himself. It was very strong in his chart. There was nothing I could do about it. But I just said to her, he's going to attempt. And so she did take him to a psychologist, but he actually killed himself in hospital. That's how severe it was.
Yeah. So I'm just mentioning, obviously, these are intense topics for us as examples, but it comes up when you're looking at the chart in the way that tradition looks at the chart. We look at every single aspect of your personality, every single aspect of your life, as well as your difficulties, your shadows, your wounds, things like that. So we often come across very complicated issues, and it is something that the modern astrologers may have to be more sort of generalized about, or sort of give a different sort of remedy towards, whereas in tradition we literally can get down to the actual specifics of this kind of thing. And that's really important for people to know just how deep astrology goes when you've studied it, to these extents, and how it can assist with seeing yourself as a whole being with flaws and with good qualities and strengths and weaknesses, and how it leads to some kind of self-acceptance as well, because it's not like you won't stop working on yourself, but it gives you that validation. It's in the chart. It's like, oh, this is me. This is who I am,
There's some very deep problems that come across, and there are things where you have to be careful how you approach it. The person comes to you because they've got issues with relationships, or they just, very stressed about people and they're withdrawn. And then you look at the area of sex, sexual abuse, all that, and you see in that area of the chart there's some really hectic stuff going on there. But you can't say, oh, you've been sexually abused, like a modern astrologer told me. No, I've never been sexually abused. Yeah, my first husband beat me up. My father wasn't great. My second husband cheated on me, but but just slam it in like that. And I thought, well, that was for me a lesson learning that. And I looked there and I said, well, tell me what happened to you. Tell me what happened to you as a child that made you wary of men.
Yeah.
And the whole story then
Delicate.
came out, and then we could work through it.
Yes.
I mean, that's the sort of thing you have to do. And if it's deeper than that, I mean, I've had people there who have tried and tried and tried to have children, but they have so much going on there in the pregnancy side. It's never, ever, ever, ever going to work. And I won't say it will never, ever, ever, ever work. I just say, look, there's so many challenges here. Do you really, really want a baby? Because if you do, perhaps you could go and speak to your doctors and look at surrogacy or adoption or something like that. Yeah. And then it's not my problem, because I've told them it's, you've had 3 IVFs, you've got no more money left. You're barren. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
And I had a client that listened. Yeah. She actually went and they got they got an ovum donor.
Oh, amazing. But I think that is the power of the harsh truth sometimes, is that you can really get the ruthless clarity of what your situation is. And instead of wasting time and money and on sort of falsehoods or false dreams, the harsh truth can sometimes set us free. And then now she got an ovum donor and her baby, so that was what she wanted. Really, it didn't happen in the way that she hoped it would happen, but astrology helped her realize which way it might happen for her. So
it was interesting. It does work that way, especially like in a career choice as well. Like I had a person very unhappy. She said, I feel like such a failure. I said to her, why do you feel like a failure? She said, all I am is a secretary. Now, look, I'm old. I'm going back in my time. And in her chart, all she was ever going to be was a secretary. And I was able to say to her, but you're an amazing secretary. And if it wasn't for you, your boss would not be able to do well. And if he wasn't doing well, something would happen in the company. Then the company could fail. And then everything could fall pieces. Your little job you do and that cog you do in that watch, if it wasn't there, it would fail. I said, look at it that way. You are needed. And she was like, it just gave her a new lease on life. I mean, she was the best. She came to me a couple of years later and said, do you know that I'm now the PA? Still a secretary. She still does his laundry. She still...
But amazing. She feels better, and she developed through her accepting something in her chart that was difficult to change.
Because she owned her stuff. She owned where she was and where she was going in life. She owned it. Yeah. And it was hard.
And astrology lets you do that. Yeah.
Yeah, it sets you free. It takes away, it doesn't kill your dreams. It strengthens your reality. That's what I say astrology does.
Ooh, that's such a great line. Astrology doesn't kill your dreams; it strengthens your reality. We should have put that on a logo, on a something. That's
you
fantastic.
Can have it.
So, Laurie, speaking about, since you had a couple of medical examples there and your medical history, can you tell us a little bit about how back in the day, astrology was one of the main sciences in terms of university curriculums? Most people don't know that it was as important as mathematics in medical school, and that astrology was actually used to diagnose and to prepare surgery and all of that kind of thing. And can you tell us how that was important and a little bit more about that and how it applies to the medical stuff?
Yeah, this goes back many, many years. There's also another course of astrology that I studied, another branch, which was called magic astrology. Magic astrology also uses all sorts of things to do with the planets and the timing and when things are right. They knew when the planets were going this way or that way. They knew the planet of intellect, which is Mercury. When he's retrograde, people are not going to think straight. So why are you going to do anything there? But they also knew through signature astrology, this planet rules that part of the body. This planet rules that part of the body. Jupiter, for example, he can rule the liver because it's big and bloody and Jupiter's hot and moist. So there you're getting temperaments. So you look at the temperaments. Now you put a very hot and moist planet and it's in a cold and dry sign. There's going to be problems. So they used to use a lot of temperaments and things like this. Then you've got people like Richard Saunders and Culpeper, proper surgeons. And I mean, I actually wrote an article on bloodletting. And there's times there are people who have too much iron in their blood, or there's too much clotting or toxins. And in those days, you used leeches or let blood. You actually used to cut arteries and let the blood run out because it would save the people. And they would look at this and they'd say, okay, where is the moon? No, the moon is waning. A waning moon means it's losing light, it's weak. And because the moon moves the fastest, they would look at that big time. If it's going slower, we don't need to let blood when it's going slow. We need it to be growing so the blood will come out. Then we need to know what foods are blood thinners. And they do signature foods. And so they would say, then you give them the cucumber and you do this and you do that and then that. That if they were going to do surgery, they don't want a lot of blood. So the moon must be waning. So there's not a lot of bleeding. And this is how they would do it. If people were battling to have baby, the witches, like I'm supposed to be, would actually have a look at the ephemeris, look at the planets, have a guide and see where this was, have a look at the person. If they didn't know their date, they would look at the time they came in, because the time you come into the doctor is called a decumberment chart, almost like a horary chart that will show you the sicknesses and the problems. They could look at that and they could make their potions and lotions, and they could actually give dates, say, look, this is when the moon in your progress chart, you look at a chart, say when the moon for you will next be in full cycle. And this is when you will be fertile. That is a good time. So they could do that. They did it so well in those days. And Ayurvedic medicine that people talk about is very much astrology related. It's modern. People think it's this modern natural. No, Ayurvedic is used. It's astrology. It's energy. Ayurvedic, yes, it is astrology. It's energy.
Yeah. It's fascinating, and a lot of people, dismiss astrology as woo-woo or fluff or nonsense, or my brother even used to call it, when the snake oil enthusiasts are getting together. So it's. I mean, he said that tongue in cheek, obviously, but a lot of people don't realize how astrology was part of the medical tradition and the university curriculum, and it was only really when the understanding of astronomy being the scientific aspect of the planets, their actual composition, their motion, what they were made of and things like that, that became a slightly more respected science, if you like. And then, of course, the fear-mongering that happened just before Alan Leo brought in modern astrology, that's where we started to lose the reverence that we had for traditional astrology and its power in the university curriculum. Yeah, and it was very sad, because now we a lot, as those of us that are practitioners today, we have to battle against this kind of idea of the charlatan or the fake news or the kind of rubbish things, and then also the Instagram or TikTok astrologer who just spouts things as fact and truth, yet they don't have the years of study behind them. And this has all sort of contributed to this idea that astrology is a pseudoscience or a falsehood. So I'm really, really thrilled to hear about everything that you're sharing with us about the power of astrology in terms of health, fertility, predictions of jobs, and personality, and understanding yourself. It's really, really fascinating. How do you feel? Yes, sorry.
No, carry on. This is an important question.
I was going to say, how do you feel about this influx of Instagram astrologers and the way that it may be tainting or diluting astrology as we know it? Obviously, there's a place for everybody, but what would you just advise our viewers in terms when they're watching someone who may not have the qualification?
Now, there's some really amazing Instagram astrologers who have studied with good schools, who have got qualifications. I would actually do a background check on them, see where they've studied, I say every good astrologer belongs to an association. That gives you credibility. If you don't belong to an association and you're floating in the wind, I mean, you can get away with anything because there's no monetarium, nothing. I mean, I've had to close my Facebook pages because being an astrologer who's now retired, because you do everything I do, you become the mini me. So anything I can do, you can do. And sometimes better because not I was a nurse, you're a psychologist as well. So you're an amazing mix of everything. But what has happened, they will go and they will talk generally to you are a Leo, therefore you are egotistical, you this, you that. Now, you say, but I'm not really like that. I like being a Leo, I like being things, I like to be out there, but I met a very shy Leo. He didn't want to be out there and exposed. Then we have to say, well, let's look at the sun, which is your vital creative energy, your battery. Yours is a very strong creative battery, but you've got to look at what of the 12 signs Leo are you? Which one are you? What is your Dwight? Can you tell us?
I actually don't know offhand. I think.
What is the degree of your sun?
I'm 20 degrees. See, I'm a good astrologer. I have my reference material with me at all times.
I know, 20 degrees of Leo, 20 degrees of Leo. And how many minutes? So we go to Leo, 20 degrees of Leo. How interesting, you're Pisces, Leo. Our connection.
Yes,
our connection. That's why you're gentle and you're quiet and you're a dreamy Leo. You don't make a big noise and you have the Pisces energy around you and you're creative, but you do beautiful creativity. So there's that. But also your rising sign describes you as well. So there's so many things. So when they are just talking, they're generally talking about the energies going on and if you're Leo this. And I can tell you one thing. When I was doing the tradition, there was a Catholic minister, a young guy, and he used to contact me regularly. And he said, please, what's going on? He said, I just have I've been praying and I just don't know what to say for my sermon. Tell me what's going on. And I'd tell him about what was happening out there. And he said, go there. And he would speak to the general. So we can look up anything and you're speaking to the general because we're all feeling this energy. Mercury is retrograde now, slowing down in a fixed sign in Scorpio. People are like us. We're digging deep. We're intense. We're researching. And we're all going, we're looking deep within. You see? And then Mercury is going to turn around and go direct with the knowledge and then want to just, when it's in Sag, we're going to have this excessive energy again.
Yeah.
And burn out a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. Mm-hmm. I think everyone's feeling the intensity of this Mercury retrograde at the moment that we're going through. It's been very, very intense for people. So yeah, I think what you're saying is so important in terms of astrologers that are online and that are, as you say, there's some fabulous ones and there's some, but it's always good to do a background check on whether they're associated with an association and possibly where they've studied, just to give them a little bit more credibility, because it's one thing to talk about a subject, but it's another thing to make predictions for people who may base their life choices on those predictions or those themes. So we do have a sense of professional responsibility, which we want to put across. And as tradition, we are not speaking generally. We are speaking very, very specifically to you and your chart. Which I think is a powerful aspect. But I do also understand, the modern aspect where it's wonderful to immerse yourself in the themes and the myth and the soul spiritual stuff. I think that can be a nice balm for where you are or what your spiritual
beautiful balm, especially if you're going to talk about on Instagram this retrograde Mercury and Scorpio fixed in that and say, so if you are a Leo, it'll create a bit of a crisis because automatically Scorpio squares Leo. So you can say, so you're going to be at a bit of a crossroads. And so you can tell them energy-wise because our sun is our energy. But, I love it because when students first come to class, I want to know which is their worst astrological sign. Yes. And that is the sign you have to work on because we have every single sign in our chart. In our lives, we have to deal with everything. The one we hate the most And then the ones we love the most also belong to us. Often the ones we love the most are the ones that get us into trouble. You see, so this is it. I never forget, when I learned this, when one of my teachers said, "What sign do you hate the most?" I said, "Capricorn." Very important. Don't like them. And so there was this little smile. And the Capricorn in my area of life is about setting goals.
Yes.
Setting goals. And I had to learn I've got to have discipline and set goals if I want to get anywhere in life. And as a Pisces, there's no boundaries. Who feels like if you don't want to chill there? Yeah.
That is so fascinating. I'm actually going to, I forgot about that. I'm going to introduce that to my students as well. It's fun to learn where
I've
you
had many students, we being double Pisces, and often they say, Pisces, why? Because they're bloody liars. And they cry babies. I said,
cry babies.
Okay. And as I said, so let's see the area in your chart where you're a liar and you're a cry baby.
Yes. And this is what's so lovely about the detailed astrology, where you actually look at the chart as a whole, regardless of which branch of astrology you're looking at. It's so fascinating to discover that your sun sign may actually be the least important or least relevant part of you. There may actually be much stronger planets that influence yourself and your energy, and your rising sign and your ruling planet may be much more significant. So it's quite funny that everybody knows their sun sign, but they don't actually know everything that goes into it. And like you said, that we have every 12, each area of our chart is ruled by one of those signs. So we actually have the entire zodiac in our chart. And all the planets.
We everything, yes. But I look at the planets and the sun signs and all the different planets. You need to have that sun, because that is your heartbeat. That is your heart. Without your heart, there's nothing happening. So you've got to have that battery. And people often mix up the Mars in our chart, which is our action. There's the king, our heart. And if our heart is doing what he should be doing, the soldier knows where to go with that, making the action. So they all need to work together. So every single planet is a living organism in our bodies. The chart is you can see a whole body in a chart. It's fascinating. Yeah.
And that brings us back to, like you were saying about the medical astrology, that the planets rule all of our organs and our biology and our physiology. So that's how we can diagnose illness and healthy practices and things as well.
And the timing, you'll have people in my one class, I had some students, and we were going through the part of doing elective astrology, which is another form. You touch on it in the 2 years courses that you do, where you just give snippets of information. Initially, they're just doing the natal, but the elective astrology is amazing, because we were around about the period when the sun was going to enter into Aries in a couple of months, was the beginning of the year. And the sun rules your eyes, because the sun, it's as simple as the sun is the light. So therefore, what organs does it rule? It rules your hair, your shining glory, and your eyes. So if you're going to have cataract surgery, you want the sun to be in a good place in the sky, around there. So you want to go and look in this amazing book, get your astrologist to say, what day is a good day for surgery? And my goodness me, the sun was in Aries. The surgeon's knife, Mars, was in Aries. And Mercury was in Aries. Now you say Aries. When signs certain planets thrive in, other planets can't stand it. So then the sun loves being in Aries. It's like a king on a horse. It just loves it. So everything was beneficial towards the sun. So you could give a period of time for them to go and have that eye surgery, and you could be very confident it would work out. And so, that's a little bit of elective astrology. It's just an easy way to do elections. I mean, I gave that one talk where I showed the difficult way, which is a nightmare.
Yes.
Mm.
So to choose a good time to do something, to elect a time, is election astrology. So that's fascinating. So in terms of astrology in the current moment in the modern world, how do you feel that astrology is useful in terms of change or crisis, or because there's a lot of difficulty in the world today. We've got the economy, we've got the politics, we've got so much going on. How can astrology help people who may not normally have approached astrology, that's not, they're not familiar with it? How can it help people in troubled times?
I often say what goes around, as above, so below. They're called transits because they're moving planets. They're traveling all the time. Our chart is basically fixed. This is who we are. We change over the years, and that's called a progress chart. So there's chart one, our birth chart. Then there's a progress chart. Then there's the transits. If you understand yourself and where things are going wrong and what your strength is, you can help. They're in the tradition, there's ways. The problem thing is I had a very unhappy client coming to me the other day, and she said, I really, really unhappy. I mean, she's got so much Cancer and so much Pisces and so much Scorpio in her chart. Okay. Very unhappy because her two children are Scorpio and her husband's a Scorpio. But surely water signs all get on. It should all be happy. Yet she's had to run away from very abusive situation. Very abusive situation. I even progressed her to when it was and saw what happened. It was fascinating. And she's saying, no, but astrology says water signs should get on. And now I'm married to a fire sign. I said, with all your water, you need some fire in your chart, darling. Yeah. You need some fire. I mean, then you get things like modalities. I'm very mutable, watery. My husband is very fixed earth. I get him moving, he grounds me. There's a compatibility. You can't just assume, and that's a bit of modern astrology that people assume, oh, we're both fire signs. You put two fire signs together, it's like putting two pit bulls against each other.
Yeah, that's
it doesn't work very well. They understand the anger and the fire and the passion, but it doesn't last.
They don't necessarily complement. Yeah, they don't necessarily complement. Yeah,
exactly. You put all the air signs together, everybody's trying to talk at the same time and nobody's listening.
Yeah.
The water signs, we'll just drown each other out. Yeah. And as for the earth signs, we will all sit there and say, yeah.
That's what I love as well. Like, I must say, studying astrology, I knew rather naively in the beginning that I was a Leo. But as I studied astrology, I actually fell in love with each and every sign because of the way that we learned the mythology behind their story and where they came from and their strengths and weaknesses. And it just really made me understand the value of each of them. And as you say, we can laugh at ourselves for our different aspects, our strengths and weaknesses. But I think studying astrology in depth really shows you how to appreciate other people. It really gives you an insight into the lens of somebody else and how they may, how they relate to other people. And it can give you such an amazing sense of being, good with people. And it was actually through my work in astrology that made me want to go and study psychology to take that a little bit further, to understand how that works. But I think that astrology certainly helps people in terms of crisis. And I have some examples of clients, like I had a recent one where a client of mine phoned me in a panic because her father was having some kind of medical episode. And I saw with this Mercury retrograde in Sag, it was aspecting his heart. And I said, I think he's having a blood clot. I think he's having a heart attack. I think you have to take him to the hospital. And luckily there was paramedics at the event where they were. But when they got him to the hospital, he'd had a blockage that ruptured and he was still having the heart attack. And so through that example. It was just amazing that we were able to see the Sagittarian, the blood, the thickening with the aspect
and the slow Mercury,
slow
who's the
Mercury.
mover groover, retrograde. Oh,
Yes.
shame.
And then and then the Mars was in Sag quite close as well, applying pressure and applying intensity. So it was amazing.
Yes.
And he survived. They operated on him. They put 3 stents in the heart and in the surrounding
Wow.
areas, and he survived. So that was a recent one that I had where it was actually fascinating how the power of tradition could help in a real crisis moment, So, and like you said, understanding yourself, learning how you react, and the moon, just knowing your moon can teach you so much about your emotional state and the way that you deal with people.
Oh, gosh, yes. No,
Yeah,
it really does, and, people often, they go and they look at the full moon and think it's the most wondrous thing ever, and they do all sorts of things. And I think, sure, full moon is quite an intense energy.
yes,
It means you've reached a fulfillment. You can't, it's like, that's it. You've done as much as you can in this month of your growth you're going to do. Now
yes,
you've got to own it. You can't do more. You've got to take what you've achieved at this full moon phase and make it work as the moon gets less and less. Take this and finish it off. It's like you're full. You can't have any more food. You are full. You need to
yes,
process what you've taken in. I mean, I
yes,
also had a very interesting, clients, they get to know you. It's like a type of a profession you can have, which is really great. The better you get, the better known you are, like you. I get this phone call. No, I was busy. I think I was teaching or something. And I was called to that telephone in those days. This client actually phoned my husband, who happened to be home, said, "Get Laurie now. I'm in hospital." So I'm going to hospital. So oh my gosh, I went down. She said, "My doctor wants to do an MRI and I keep on collapsing." She said, "What's wrong? Do a horary." So I did a horary and I said, "Tell your doctor to look into your left ear. There's nothing wrong with your brain." And the doctor, she's sitting in the doctor's room calling for me. Let me speak to my astrologer. The
no
doctor just,
pressure.
no pressure. And I just said, "Tell the doctor to look in your left ear." The doctor looked in her left ear and she had this virus and this inflamed middle inner ear. And that caused her to pass. Every time she stood up, she fell down. It was a simple ear infection.
How amazing! How amazing! And
Yeah.
that is the level of detail that the horary can offer us. It's crazy,
Mm.
absolutely crazy. How fantastic that is. So another topic that comes up quite a lot in terms of the different areas of astrology, which causes a little bit of tension, is the difference between tropical Western astrology and sidereal astrology, which is the Vedic. Is there
Mm.
anything that you'd like to talk about in terms of that to help people understand that they both are, different practices, but that they can't be used together or mixed together because they're different
No.
theories?
They're different practices, different theories. I mean, there's some brilliant Vedic astrologers out there, but it's an Eastern belief. It's like Chinese astrology. So,
Yes.
what am I? I'm a wooden dog. What
Yeah.
does that mean? I'm very practical and of service. In a way, I'm a martyr because I'm Pisces and dog is earth. So I'm quite practical because I'm a Taurus Pisces. Perhaps there are things where we could connect, but it's two completely different practices. If you're going to go Vedic, what they do is they don't really look at the signs because the signs they see as constellations that have spread. So they
Yes.
don't look anything like they do. So they say, no, 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 because Pisces is now spread into Aries. It's
Yes.
moved there. You would be Aries, or with me, it's moved. I would be Aquarius, and this and that. No, 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 that doesn't. But so the sidereal means the stars. So they look at the
Okay.
constellation stars and where you were born, where were all these stars? They have hordes. It's hugely complicated. And to me, that's too much hard work. The Western astrology is simple and to the point. I
Yeah.
don't know where Vedic came from, where it all originated from, but I think because it was difficult for certain people to predict, to do things, they did more and more and more and more. Whereas if you just stick to the normal tropical, because astrology, if you look at all the doctors, if you look at Ayurvedic medicine, everything is about temperaments, about nature, about moving, moons, this, that, the other thing. It's all there. And to me, the best thing of astrology, keep it simple. Find the genre that suits you. If you're going to be a Vedic astrology, go into that 100%. I investigated it and I thought, why am I doing that when this one works for me and has worked for my clients over and over and over?
Yes.
And that's just my belief. So to say, does it work? It never worked for me. Why? Most probably because I was blocked off to it even before I went to the reading. And when I was given a hoard of papers like this about who I was, and the person was telling me this, I got lost. I thought, no. Yeah. So be careful. Be careful of who you go to. I would only be interested. I would not. I must say, I haven't found it working well for me. The other astrologers think it's amazing, but quite a lot of it, ironically enough, is Dwarfism.
Oh, yes.
They use those little points, which I found fascinating, which is where they do divide. So they look at that, so they are good. But what people understand, the zoology of astrology, those constellations have spread, they've moved. They don't look like what they look when people drew them. Correct. They don't look like a lion or two fish or a bull. They don't look like that anymore. That's how people could tell the stories in the olden age. So because of the spread, it doesn't mean anything. Tropical means season. And astrology is seasonal. That's what it is. It is seasonal. And it makes sense.
Yes. And Vedic actually works on a different zodiac. It works on, the degrees are different. So you can't take the theory that you've learned in Western astrology about Leo or Cancer or Pisces and then translate it into Vedic. It's literally a different set of parameters. It's a different school of thought. It's a different mythology. And so a lot of people get their astrology wrong because they try and mix Vedic and Western together.
You can't do that.
And I think Vedic is a very valuable and very rich area of study, but as you say, it's Eastern in its where it was derived from, and you need to go to a truly trained Vedic to be able to
proper truly trained Vedic,
I think, and then but a lot of people will say, oh no, but you've got my sign wrong because my Vedic astrologer says I'm a Cancer, but you say I'm a Leo, and it's literally because the zodiac has a 23-degree or something difference, and that's a very
some of that little constellation can be little. And then there's lots of space between the next one. But, it's moved. I mean, we've got Ophiuchus, who's moved into Scorpio. Now, suddenly the astronomers, every year that you get somebody who learns this, comes out and says to the astrologers, now what are you going to do? There's a 13th zodiac sign. That's not 12 months of the year anymore. And it's just because things are spread. It's not about that. It's about exactly the 4 seasons. That's what it's about.
And 360 degrees in a circle. That's math. It cannot be more degrees in the circle.
Exactly.
That is an interesting myth.
There's no more months in a year. There's no more days in a week. It's going back years and years and years, even in the days of, Sanskrit days. And it's amazing.
Ophiuchus, there was a big hoo-ha when people realized that some of the stars that made up the tail of Scorpio had actually shifted into the zodiac area of Sagittarius. And therefore, they now decided this was astronomers, they decided that there was a new sign because the constellation of that emblem had moved a little bit. But that is not how we work out the zodiac. The zodiac is worked out as a 360-degree area of space, and we divide that into 30-degree segments, which gives us 12. So yes, in that area of 30 degrees, there was once a Scorpio-looking constellation. The fact that the stars have shifted over the initial boundary doesn't change the initial boundary, which is what astrology is actually.
And another constellation is peaked in to the Scorpio area. So now they put 2 together and they got 25. They were delighted, but it happens I get phoned by radio stations quite regularly, and I just think, oh God, a new bunch of qualified astronomers, really? Because there
Yes,
is this little
exactly.
bit of a hoo-ha. But what was fascinating with the three Roberts, they were astronomers,
Yes.
also
Yes.
poo-pooed until they found this astrology and they backpedaled straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's
So
just the way.
it's just, talking to you is so exciting because it just reminds me of how deep astrology is and how powerful it is
Mm.
and how empowering it is as well. You don't necessarily have to study astrology or go into it yourself but you can get such benefit from having a reading or having an astrologer
Mm.
experience, understanding more about yourself. It's really, not only is it predictive, not only is it helpful in times of crisis and transformation, but it's also empowering in terms of learning about yourself. And as
Very
as
much so.
someone who's an avid student of psychology, I've loved learning about the fact that the chart shows me my shadow, it shows me my emotional makeup, it shows me my
Mm.
triggers, it shows me some of my shadow tendencies, and I've done a lot of healing and growing up through understanding my chart. And would you say that that's something that's quite valuable in the chart for yourself?
Oh, huge. I've had people coming to me, literally, they don't want to know about a job. They don't want to know anything. They want to know, who am I? I just
Yes.
want to know, who am I? Why am I this way? They come to me miserable because they do not see, they do not understand that when that minute you were born and you taken that very first breath, whatever's up there is known as your map of life. Your soul has chosen this path. Now we have options. This is our map. People say, oh no, there's free will. Not really. The only free will we have is how we manage our life path. Do we
Yes.
fight it or do we embrace it? I mean, now recently that I have retired, I went through quite a bit of a frisson. And I thought, whoa, I've retired and I've just like handed everything over. And there was this thing going on in me. And I thought, but my chart showed this was going to happen. So what is
Yeah.
your worry? And I thought, you know what? I've retired. It's not my path anymore.
Yeah.
I have actually given you, Leonie, and my other students on my website the power to take over and for you. It's your chance now. I need to step back. And instead of feeling, oh, I could have taken that client, or that could have been a negative thing. But suddenly I saw, oh my God, isn't this great? She can now pay rent, and that one can afford to do this. And now this one is no longer depressed. I immediately thought, yes, look at that, see it as that, because I'm okay. I've been very good with my money. I've got enough. I can retire. And that's it, it's an attitude. And that's how you can counsel people on just showing them why are they this way. And sometimes I've actually had to say to them, you do need medication and it's
Yeah.
not natural. And
Yeah.
I can't help you more because this is who you are. Now make yourself better. Your choice is to or not to.
Yes.
And then also you tell them, it's the most amazing thing in every astrology chart. God doesn't give us this path to be on without help. There's a
Yeah.
planet that can help you called the Lord of the Geniture. That is like the head prefect. So you can go to that head prefect, and that head prefect can help you out of any situation. You might not like it, but it'll help you. Then there's another planet called the Al Newton of the chart, which is the guardian angel. It's actually a planet that every time it's triggered, it gives you power to do what you're supposed to do. It is your guardian angel. It can be a very debilitated planet, but where is it? What is it doing? Who rules it? How is it affecting? Work that planet. Show them how to work this planet, as weak as it is. Every planet has the ability to work. And the problem with modern astrologers sometimes, all these people on Instagram, that a little bit of knowledge is a bad thing. They say, oh, that's a planet in its detriment. Oh, sorry for you. You're going to have a hard time.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, Yes, you've got a planet and it's in its detriment, but it's ruled by a planet and it gets help because this planet likes it and this planet aspects it. There's the geometry. So this planet, though it's in its detriment, it
Yeah.
shows you. You work it in the way it's meant to work, you will be positive.
Yeah.
So this is this technique, and you just talk to them that way because quite a few people have come to me being very, very hurt by people who've not studied astrology properly.
Yes. Yes.
And they've
Yes.
told them things that, and they come to me in such a state, just to know. And for children, it's very empowering for a parent to understand the triggers of a child.
Yes.
And their guardian angel, because it's like the acorn theory.
Yes.
If you want to be an artist and your mother wants you to be a doctor, you're going to be a really crap doctor.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, this is the thing. And to understand the hunger a child has and what the child is meant to be is very empowering for the mother, because when that child comes with this, you can empower them rather than swallow them.
Yes, that's such a powerful thing that you say, and it's such a wonderful thing to actually see certain things in the chart and be able to guide mums and dads and parents on how to view their children and to work with some of their strengths and weaknesses. So that is something that's hugely empowering in terms of astrology.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about what you think, if you could share with our viewers, what you would love them to take away from our chat in terms of the power of astrology. What would you like them to really hone in on from our chat?
I think the very first thing is get to know yourself through your chart. Astrology is not just one session. It's like going to a psychologist. And I know many, many astrology psychologists. I know many psychologists that have studied astrology, and like you did astrology psychology. Get to know who you are and what your path tells you you're supposed to do. And then accept this path. Except in some cases, you're not going to have children. And I mean, there's so many where I said, I've actually been able to look at the chart and you don't really want kids, do you? No. Is that okay? It's perfectly fine. It's not in your chart. Cool. So, you can do that sort of thing. So get to know who you are, what your strengths are, your weaknesses. Get to know you. Be totally self-indulgent and ask your personal questions. So that's one thing. The next thing that you can do, once you know you, go back to a session. Where am I now? What is my path now? How have I progressed in life? Where am I going to? What should I focus on this year? Every year, you get help through astrology, showing you where to focus. What is your prime focus? Everything you do, your astrologer can say in the back of your head, you need to think this.
Yes.
And at the whole year, this year has been transform your everyday routine.
Yes.
The whole year, and I've transformed it. Everyday routine, I've transformed it. So and I've done it.
You really have. You've changed a lot in your life this year. So just for our viewers to understand, what we do in traditional astrology is we do something called a yearly reading from your birthday. We always do it at around the birthday time, and then we forecast for your year ahead, your themes, strong indicators. We can get some special days for you, specific days. We can predict certain times, but the solar return is a chart for the year. It's a birth chart for the year. It gives you a lot of themes and energy, and as Laurie said, what to focus on, what you need, and what your focus will be. So that's another wonderful thing of traditional astrology as well. But you can do it with other branches of astrology that have similar things, and you can go for a reading at any time. I think if you've got a crisis of sorts, as you've learned, there's a lot of different branches of astrology which can help you in the here and now. Laurie, I think just to finish up, you were saying about astrology, what do you think the value is in terms of the world and trying to get astrology the credibility that it deserves? What else would you share if there's anything else you'd like to mention?
I just truly believe what is happening more and more and more. And I mean, no disrespect to people who've done modern astrology. I did it and it just didn't work for me. And I knew it didn't work for me. And interesting, my teacher said, you know what? Look who's here. And that's when we all studied the medieval. But I
Yeah,
just say to people out there, astrology is a great help. It can help you with a career. I have many male astrologers that come to me, businessmen. I have a businessman who comes to me every time he gets a new member of staff. He just gives me female and he gives me the date of birth so I can look at certain things and say, okay, there's a strong, this energy. This guy's going to be bored if you keep him in the office. That person needs to be focused. Yeah, that sort of thing. They come
yeah,
to you again and again. You can go to your astrologer if you have a problem and she can decide this will need a horary or it'll need this, or she's already done your charts for the year. It's a simple check in, see where I am now. Because one of the biggest things that you need to take away is we are not psychic. We
yes,
cannot tell you every single day of the week if you're going to have a car crash, break your toe, break your arm, break your leg. That is
yeah,
impossible. There are 360 days of a year. This is 1 month. This little section here is 1 month. How can we
yeah,
possibly predict this for people? We can't. Go
yeah,
there with your astrologers, with your questions, with what you want to know, and deal with that. Because we
yeah,
are not psychic. And that is one thing that I have had to say to people many a time. I'm not a psychic. I'm an
mm,
astrologer. You ask me questions, I'll give you timing.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah,
But I truly believe that your astrologer that you're going to or you're going to follow needs to have a website. And on the website, it needs to state that they have studied so you can see they are recognized.
mm,
That's important.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think, we've learned so much today, and thank you so much for everything that you've been sharing and all the knowledge that you've given us and your extensive experience and where you've studied locally and all your international teachers as well. I think just to mention how powerful it is to have something like astrology as a real useful tool to help
Mm.
you make decisions, to help you choose direction, to help you navigate difficult territories in your life. I think it's something that really is so misunderstood in the world, and it is such a shame because it
Mm.
is so valuable. Just like you mentioned, the
Yes.
scientific calculator, where would we be if someone thought the scientific calculator was nonsense and we never got it? Where would we be today without that? And
Mm.
that's what I think astrology offers people. It's a map, it's a calculator, it's a suggested format for what you might be able to do. And it helps you access deeper parts of yourself, which I think is very empowering. And that's what the world is moving towards in terms of spirituality today is
Mm.
becoming whole, becoming ourselves, how to become the best version of ourselves. And I think it's also important to mention that if you go to an astrologer who has studied, as you say, or is accredited, that they really are committed to finding the best for you, the best for you, the best truth, the best
I think we
option.
guide you. It's
Yes,
almost like, come on, I'm your guide. Let me help you on your path. Because you can either enjoy the hike or you can hate it. And
yes,
that's what I feel. Here I am. I'm your guide. Here's the map of your
yes,
life. Let's have fun. Let's enjoy our life because this soul has only got this one lifetime to do all this in this chart in this one lifetime. And at the
yes,
right time, it's all going to happen. Either it's going to destroy you if you let it, or else you're going to have to say, what can I learn from it? I always think in life, I get destroyed by things, even though I'm an astrologer. And then I think, well, pick yourself up. What have you learned? Move forward because this is what your soul is supposed to do. You're supposed to experience this. Are you going to have a pity party or are you going to give yourself a prescription and say, I'm going to read books, I'm going to read a book a day for a month and do nothing else? Yeah. So it's just marvelous. So that's what your astrologer, she is there to guide you. She or he, there's some fabulous astrologers out there to guide you.
you were saying
Okay.
you're going to give yourself a prescription to read a book every day.
And because why should I feel guilty at this stage of my life? You see, I've earned the right to sit. If I want to read a book every day, I'll read a book a day.
Yes.
If I want to bake, well, I've been asked, please, mommy, stop baking because everybody's getting fat because this new retirement thing of mine is kind of 5 crunchies. And I let, no, the crunchies aren't right. Let me try another batch. But these are lovely. No. Yeah. Yeah.
That's just so funny to me because, like, I know you as this mystical sage who has introduced me not only to spirituality but also to the knowledge of astrology and the vastness of the concept and the subject. And then it's just so cute and funny for me to think of this sort of magical mystic witch who's now cooking cookies for her grandchildren. You know, it's just so little do people know the power of your scope and what you can do. And I think this is important for people to know, especially anybody who may want to study astrology or delve into it more, is that you really can access such amazing information and learn some really fabulous skills as well. So it really is something to help us in the future. And I think opening our minds to some of the older practices, and it's not only linked to astrology, it's linked to natural healing, herbalism, you know, all of these other sort of natural and ancient crafts are coming back into the forefront. Nowadays, people are realizing that the way we used to do it before everything got commercialized and before everything got dehumanized, that there is such power in these ancient crafts and that they really weren't mumbo jumbo, that they actually can have a massive and powerful impact.
Just like, you know, I mean, me, but the baking, I'm a pastry chef now. It's a modern term, but it's an old recipe book I got when I got married, the first time I got married. And my mother, I was 19, and she wrote out all the recipes, Granny's fudge, Erms, this, that, all these old things. And my grandson's there, and he says to me, Nana, why are you looking at that book? I said, no, I'm looking at these recipes. He said, Nana, why don't you just go into Google? I said, that tastes like mine. Nothing like the good old stuff. If you have these old remedies, you understand.
Exactly. So
I'm this granny now trying to just get back. But yeah, I do say every now and then I do love the astrology. I do respect it. And yeah, no, every time what's going wrong? And then I quickly look at the film and say, oh, okay, fine. But yeah, it's just there. It's in me. It's in every one of us. I mean, the stars and the planets are in every single one of us. We've all got a map. And my thing is, you can't change the path you're going on. What's going to affect you is going to affect you. But what you can change, what you do have control over, is how you manage it. And an astrologer can show you what you need to do to help you if you feel you can't cope. Go and speak to your astrologer. Find out who you are. Love yourself. They might need to send you to a psychologist. And that's why it's fabulous if you've got the advantage of an astrologer psychologist. Like there was this, I went to this conference and there was this woman, she's a psychologist, but she was also an astrologer. And she was talking from America. And the Americans knew her as the psychic astrologer. The psychic psychologist, they didn't realize she knew all about them because she saw their charts.
And she did the astrology.
Right in. I had a psychologist coming to me once and said, I cannot get to the essence of my patient's problem. I cannot. Said, I'm going to do something very unethical. I won't give you her name or anything, but can I give you your birth date? And can you just see, this is what she's coming to. What is the essence? And I looked and I said to her, why don't you just ask her about this? And there it was.
Yeah.
She's now studying astrology.
Yeah, there is some reference to Carl Jung apparently casting charts for some of his patients as well, when he also couldn't get the dreams weren't telling him, the sessions weren't progressing, then he would just have a look at the chart. But obviously he did it in the way that Carl did a lot of things, which was nothing ever sort of was fixed, fated, but he did consider it, which was wonderful.
No, it is wonderful.
So thank you, Laurie. Thank you for bringing all of your knowledge and your lived experience and all your depth and examples. It's been so fascinating to have this conversation with you and to share it with our viewers as well. We've explored a lot of different branches of astrology, the technical foundations, the depth, and how astrology has gone, changed over the years and been diluted in some aspects, and now it seems to be coming back to the foreground, or to the forefront rather. And we've shown how sometimes astrology can be misunderstood, and how valuable it can be in our lives. And I just wanted to thank you for highlighting all of this for us, and for being with us tonight, and for giving us your time, even though you are retired and baking with your grandchildren. We're so grateful to have you, and thank you so much.
The pleasure. And I can quite confidently say I'm so glad I've taken all my practice and given it to you. Boom. And whoever comes to you will be very happy.
Thank you, Laurie.
Go well, and thank you for inviting me as your guest.
Pleasure. And all your other students as well that are listed on your website. There's some other amazing
that website is, they are the people listed on there are the ones I trust 100% and deserve to be there.
Yeah.
There are other very deserving ones, but these are ones who really put in that extra thing and showed me they could do it. Otherwise, I would not recommend them.
Yeah.
And then they still come to me when they're stuck, so it's fine.
Yeah. And your endorsement matters. We've learned you're a tough astrologer. You don't mince the truth.
No. Not even with my students. With my students.
Definitely not. Thank you, Laurie. Thank you so much. And just for our viewers, our next episode, we're going to be moving into witchcraft beyond fear and fiction. And in this panel, we're going to feature practitioners from diverse backgrounds who will help us separate history from stereotype and understand the real complexity of witchcraft across cultures and demystify it for our panels. And that will be our next episode. And we really hope to see you there. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.